Welcome back, friends, to Build a Lot Acres. My name's Case, and in today's video, we're going to be discussing hand splitting versus splitting with a machine and which one might be right for you. Stay tuned. And the reason that I wanted to do the series, like I've said, is to teach people basics about wood burning, because I think it's going to get really popular. And I wanted to get these videos out before the burning season really starts, give people a chance to kind of get some good knowledge and basic general understanding of burning wood. But in today's video, we're going to be talking about more of a debatable topic, and that is hand splitting versus splitting with a machine. Which one might be right for you? So I would say there's obviously negatives and positives to each. The biggest consideration, honestly, for most people is going to be money. How much money do you have to put towards that? Obviously, you can get an axe or a maul or a hand splitting tool for much, much cheaper than a machine. You could probably get an axe for 40, 50 bucks or a maul, whereas a mechanical splitter, whether it be a kinetic, hydraulic, whatever, you're going to probably spend at least $2,000, maybe more, depending on how fancy and how commercial of a machine you want to get. But that's not the end of the story, and that's not where we should just stop and end the video. So I think you really need to look at this as a money over time deal. What do I mean by that? Well, you need to figure out how long it would take you to split your amount of wood you need per year with a hand splitter, and then how long it would take with a machine. Times that times how many years you want to burn, and then you kind of figure out how many days a year you're putting aside to split wood, and how many days or weeks you're saving over those years by not using a hand splitting tool. Because realistically, I'm going to give you some hard numbers of my own that I know are true. You guys can choose to believe them. I know some people are going to not believe some of the things I'm going to say, and that's fine, but we're going to say them anyways. So if I take myself, I burn 8 full cords of wood a year. That's 8 128 cubic foot cords. I'm not talking about face cords. By the way, I think face cords is a silly term. It references the face of the cord, what you can see, a 4x8 rectangle. It doesn't specify, though, how deep the cord, that face is. It could be 16 inches, which was the standard, which would be a third of a cord. But it could also be 14 inches, 18, 20, 24. So it could vary on how much wood there is. So I think using the term face cord is silly. And I think a lot of people say face cords because it's more than a cord, and it sounds more impressive if you say, I split 8 face cords. It sounds more impressive than saying I split, whatever, 2.5 or 3 full cords. But when I say cord, I always mean full cord. I don't use the term face cord. I think it's a silly term. So I burn 8 full cords of wood a year. My super split was $2,500 when I bought it about 11 years ago. So if I take 8 cords times that 11 years, that's 88 cords of wood. I know from experience, this is one of the parts I'm talking about that people might not believe, but that's fine. Like I said, no one has to believe anything I say. I'm speaking from experience. A lot of people that say you can't do it have never tried it, never owned a super split. But I can split 1 cord an hour with my super split. So in 1 full day, I can split all my wood for the year. And I burn a lot more wood than a lot of people. A lot of people only burn 3 or 4 cords. So I'm probably one of the more, extreme examples, I guess. Some people burn more than me, though. Some people burn 10, 11, 12 cords. But I burn 8 cords a year, so in 1 full day, I could split all my wood for the year. Versus if I did it by hand with an axe or a maul, I've never tried, but I'm going to say I could probably do maybe 2 cords a day. That's just a guess. I can't see myself doing more than that. I mean, I'm not a super young guy. I'm not 20, 25, 30, 35. I'm not a young guy, but I'm also not at the older end. I'm not in my 60s, 70s. So I'm probably an average person as far as people watching this video. So I would say most people could probably do a similar amount to me, give or take. So 2 cords a day. So it would take me 4 days to do my, year's worth of wood versus 1 day with a splitter. So every year I'm spending 3 additional full 8-hour days splitting wood, where I could be doing other things. I could be going on vacation with my family, could be building things, could be doing the sawmill, could be making extra money at work. There's a lot of things I could do with that extra 3 days. And if you do, over the course of that 11 years, that's 33 extra days. That's what, 33 days would be over 6.5 full weeks of work, 40-hour weeks. That's a lot of time to spend splitting wood where you could be doing other things. So to me, you know, it makes sense to get the machine. If you figure hourly, you know, my time is worth a lot of money to me. Your time is worth to you what it's worth. I wouldn't personally do anything really for under $50 an hour as far as work goes. So if we figured $50 an hour, because that's the bare minimum I would do anything for, that's cash. You know, everyone's different. Some people might say that's crazy. Some people might say that's not even enough. To me, $50 an hour kind of represents where I'd want to be. So if we take that and kind of extrapolate it out, 50 an hour, 8 hours, that's $400 a day. In 3 days a year, I'm paying for half of the splitter. So in 2 years, my super split's paid for, and those other 9 years that I've had it are gravy, in my opinion. That's how I kind of look at it. You could look at it differently. I think it makes sense to spend the money up front and have it, but we're going to get into some other things in the video. So I think money and time are going to be the two biggest things. And then I think one of the other factors that's going to determine whether or not you want a hand split versus machine split is going to be your physical ability. Are you elderly, disabled, maybe you have a shoulder injury, back injury, you know, et cetera, et cetera. I happen to be middle-aged, but I do have multiple injuries from doing construction for 20 years. My knee, my shoulder, my lower back. You know, I can still work and do stuff, but I certainly don't want to be hand splitting 8 cords of wood every year, doing that repetitive motion, because that's what gets me. It's not lifting heavy things, it's repetitive motion over the course of a long period of time. It bothers my knee, bothers my shoulder, my lower back. So those are the things I really got to look out for. And I bet you a lot of people watching that are older, like me, are agreeing with me right now and shaking their heads saying, yeah, that's true. A lot of you guys that are younger, maybe your 20s or your 30s, you know, you're watching and thinking that I'm lying or that it's not that bad. You'll see when you guys get older. And if you haven't done construction for 20 years, maybe you don't get it. If you've done an office job and you might still be in your 40s or 50s and you're fine, keep in mind, a lot of people had tougher careers physically than you may have had, and they might be in worse physical shape. So your physical abilities are really going to come into play. I think most people watching that are older than, say, 30, 35 are probably going to agree a machine just makes sense. Once you get to a certain point in your life, you can you have a little more freedom, you have a little more money saved up, and you can come up with money to buy a splitter. Obviously, if you're starting out and you're younger and you don't have any money saved up yet, you just got into your career, you might have to hand split for 2 or 3 years until you can afford a machine. But, you know, there's a lot of different types of machines. They have $1,000 Tractor Supply Black Friday specials, but those kind of splitters are going to have an 18-second cycle time, one single wedge, no log lift. But then you can also spend 12, 15 grand on a commercial Easton made, Wolf Ridge, you know, those really high-end type splitters. When I say mechanical splitter, there's a big range. You could talk $1,000 to $20,000. They even have processors. But for the average person, I think a $2,000 to $3,000 splitter is going to be all you need. You know, whether you're doing a cord or 8 cords, it's going to be plenty at the end of the day to do what you need to do. Shut up! So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Like I said, it really only comes down to a few factors: money, time, physical ability, and how much wood you're splitting. Those are really going to determine which one's right for you. But I would say for the majority of people, unless you're splitting a really small amount of wood, say maybe 1 or 2 cords or less, I would say the machine's probably the way to go. Hope you guys found something worthwhile out of this video to help you make an informed decision for yourself and your family. See you next time.